So 83 Volkswagen Rabbit GTI.
And this is not the first time you and this car have been on the channel.
That's right, yep.
We did it a couple years ago in its stock form.
That's right.
And when we did that, you were really dead set on keeping it all stock.
I was.
So what changed your mind in order to kind of take it to this point?
Well, because of some things wearing out on it, you know, needed replaced, like the struts and everything. It had a bad head on it with bad valve seals. The motor needed reworked.
Gotcha.
So in doing that, I figured, well, I might as well go with the second slight upgrade, the OEM Plus look. You know, it still looks completely factory stock, but with a little bit of mods to it.
So what was the first thing you had to do? Was it the suspension?
No, it was the head.
Okay.
The head, like I said, it had a couple blown valve seals. It was smoking a lot. Took me a couple months to find one. Had it all reworked, all rebuilt. So basically the whole top of the motor has been gone through, reworked and rebuilt down to the fuel lines, which was very hard to get. The fuel lines was the hardest things to get. I had to outsource them from a place over in Europe, and they were expensive. Next was the suspension. The struts were shot, especially the front shots. You can stand on a thing and the thing will just bounce.
And they were original.
Yeah,
they were still the original.
As far as I know. I mean, they probably were replaced at some point in its lifetime, but you could tell that they were on there for quite a while. The struts, the front struts were completely shot. Rear ones were shot too. So I figured, well, if I'm going to tear it apart, I'm going to do it right. I went out and got a set of Raceland coilovers, dropped it about 1.5 inches, I figured, just to get rid of that wheel well gap. I like that nice, subtle, low look to it.
How's it ride?
It's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
It rides pretty good. In doing that, I replaced the whole rear end was drums, everything was replaced down to the bushings.
Oh, wow.
The bearings, everything. Front end too, had all new bearings, everything put in. That thing goes straight as an arrow down the road.
It's like a new car.
Yeah, yeah. And then I had on order for almost 1.5 years was the 15-inch RML wheels. They re-released the snowflake type wheel, you know, in the more modern style with a little bit wider. It's 15x7, stocks were 14x6. So it gives you a little bit wideness, you know, but still gives you that OEM look to it. The center caps, the wheel center caps, they had their logo in the middle. But again, I wanted to look as close as factory as I can, so I could actually find, I think an MK6 or 7 center cap that fit that wheel perfectly, but they were chrome, so I just painted them black to make them look like this factory black.
Do you have wheel spacers on there too?
No, I don't. I thought I would have to on the front because when I put the struts on and lowered it, the inside of the wheel was rubbing the strut because of how low this was, but I adjusted it accordingly and it made it fine without using them.
Now, are these factory fenders? Like this is not a fender flare or anything?
No, that's the way they were. Yeah, the fenders were like that.
It looks like it was a wide body kit, but that's probably because you're so used to seeing it with the wheels tucked up underneath.
Yes, the 14-inch wheels, and especially how high it sat, it made it look, you know, weird. But now that it sits low, it looks like it's, like you said, like a wide body.
It does. It makes it look really aggressive. So what else did you do?
I did the pinstriping on the side. I redid the pinstripe. The striping that was on it was a 1/4 inch. After doing some research, it was closer to 1/8 of an inch. So I found an 1/8 inch pinstripe and just redid all straight. That was the GTI signature with the red stripe like that.
The paint on this thing is impeccable.
Yes, I had it completely buffed and ceramic coated too.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah, and it really brought out the black. You can see yourself in it now.
Yeah, it's going to be real fun trying to film this without
getting your reflection in it.
Right.
I know I took some photos of me, you know, and you can see me in the side. I was like, oh.
And we both wore light colors.
Yeah.
So,
oh, right.
It's going to be great.
Interior wise, I just freshened up the interior. I completely shampooed everything. The floor mats in it are actually custom made. I found MK2 GTI material, which was the opposite of the red with the stripes. It was the black with the red and gray down the center. Cool. Very, very rare to find. Those are the most expensive floor mats that I ever made, okay? Because getting the material.
Did you take your shoes off when you get in the car?
Actually, I pulled them out. They're just for show. The shift boot, the original one, always happens. It splits in the middle. Got very, very lucky. Found one online. Paid an absolute fortune for it because it was still original in the box. And red at that, which is like impossible to find. I updated the trunk a little bit. Wanted to showcase, because I had the original 14-inch wheels polished and powder coated. So I wanted to show it off. I made a little custom setup back here with a custom made wooden floor covered with burgundy vinyl. And then I used a trailer hitch mount and mounted it to the floor. So actually it's in there, but it can be pulled out too. A little bit of a touch for shows when you're sitting at a show. I made a custom panel for on the back of the seat because when you take off that rear privacy shelf in the back, you can see the back of the seat, which was just basically black cardboard. So being a designer, I made my own, just subtle.
So what's the back of the seat look like regularly? It's just open?
It's just open. Yeah, just a black cardboard with the wire frame you can see from the seat. It was so funny. I was at a show last year with it toward the end of the year, and this young kid came up, okay, who had I think an MK5 or 6, came up to me. He never seen an MK1 in person, and he absolutely fell in love with it. And he says, "Can I sit in the car?" I said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." He sat in it, and he was like a little kid, okay, and he could not believe how basic the car was. He says, "What's this do?" I said, "That turns on your radio." He says, "What does that do?" "That turns on your vent. That's all you need."
Kids these days.
That was funny. But I loved it because it made me feel old, but it made me feel good to saying that, you know, this is the granddaddy of what started. Yours.
Oh yeah, and it's the way it should be. The GTI is always and will always be meant to be a 2-door. Anything else is just a Golf.
Yes, right.
It might be a fast Golf, but it's a Golf, not a GTI. What's the thing that you like the most about this? Why is it your forever car?
The history of my dad. That's the main reason. That's the ultimate reason. But I always liked him too because my dad had one and that was our family car. And I loved it. It was always, to me, the sporty car. I always loved the boxiness of it and just the coolness of it.
Is there anything about it that you'd be like, man, I just wish it didn't have this or do this? Like, is there one thing that drives you nuts about it that you're like, if I could change one thing, it would be?
That's a tough question, actually.
That's true love right there.
It is. That's a really good question, and that's very hard to answer.
That's true love.
I mean, I really like everything about it. I mean, it doesn't have its downfalls. I mean, it's just so much fun to drive.
Aside from going to shows, do you ever see any other ones?
I do, from time to time, but they're beaters. You know, they're a lot of work. People bring them up because it's a Rabbit. You know, give them respect. But every time I take mine to show, and people just cannot believe the condition of it. And doing these little extras, you know, to it too, to make it a little bit OEM plus, you know, makes it stand out too.